people aren't making those sacrifices to get to that position, or they're going out and they're like, yeah, do you know what, I want to spend this and spend that, and I want to buy this and I want to buy that, and then they're chipping away at their investment money, then ultimately it's going to fail. It's discipline. Discipline is a big factor into business, and this is why a lot of people, they're not disciplined, or they start it and then they realise the amount of discipline you need.
Today's guest is my dear friend Lorenzo Galletta.
Oh yes.
A family man, barber, and company director at Fade Fx Barbers. He's been cutting hair for over 17 years and is the education ambassador of Hairbond Hair Products, and was a British Hair and Beauty Award finalist in 2021. He is the teacher, the student, the master, and the apprentice.
Oh,
Welcome,
yes.
Lorenzo.
Everything in one. Thank you for having me on, Anita. It is a pleasure.
Oh, that's really great. Thank you for being here. I'm excited for our conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I've been waiting for this for such a long time.
Let's get on with it. So, what is one of the most courageous things that you have done?
Oof. That's a hard one, really, because I found every step I've gone through so far has always brought a new challenge.
Yeah.
Purely because I think, it's that, how does that saying go? It's, the top gets higher the more that you climb.
Absolutely.
And they say, you should always take a moment to look back to see how far you've come. But I would say, the most courageous thing really is it's an ongoing battle, really, because in business it throws tons of things at you all the time, and you have to be so diverse. You've got to be versatile. You have to get with the times. You have to learn. There's so many different hats you have to be. And I think a lot of it is being courageous as a whole, and then there is an element of risk taking involved. I think a lot of it is more calculated risks. I think you've got to do a lot of research and know where you're at in your own self, and having a good plan moving forward. But I think being courageous, it comes every day, really. I'd say I wouldn't know whether to put a whole thing on it, because I've been through 3 shops now. So I started a small one when I was 22. It was just me and another colleague, and then I outgrew that one, and then that was when that barbershop was called John Gents, and I was there for 3 years, so up until I was just shy of 26, and I let that one go. And then from John Gents came the birth of Fade Fx in 2016. Yeah, it was. Yeah, because I opened on April Fool's Day. Everyone thought it was a joke.
I like your style.
That's it. But no, it was the real deal.
Yeah.
And it was the birth of Fade Fx, and I had that for 3 years, and then I had 2 at one point. So I had one in Bedford Town Centre, and then one in Kempston, and then because the one in Kempston was a lot bigger, I phased out the one in town, kept the one in Kempston. So it's been a complete whirlwind of challenges, of excitement and stuff like that, and even sort of like having to phase the old shops out.
Yeah,
because being so invested in your first initial babies, having a business is like having a child almost. Having children, they're demanding in their own similar ways. Like
absolutely.
Yeah, they both need constant attention. You let a shop go, and then you move forward onto the next one. There's an element of your old self which you leave in that old shop or that old venture, and then you have to step into this new venture, and you have to evolve as a person. And I think just doing that, it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, definitely.
I've done a new venture, and you come over leaps and bounds, and I always have this little thing there, little voice that's just like, I know what I have to do,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. And that's where, this is where, you have to be a harsh judge on yourself. If you're the one at the top of the podium and you're slacking, then everything else beneath you is just going to be a river washing away. Getting up every day, finding the courage to get up every day, stay on top. You've got various hats. You've got to be marketing, payroll, you've got to be shop floor, general manager, you've got to be in charge of stock and literally everything. And, each day is a different role. So just that in itself is, it's a lot of courage, and, you've got to reach out to certain people, and, you have to build a big team. And even that is just having the courage to talk to someone new and learn new stuff as well. Because I find, especially in the barbering industry, like I've been cutting hair for 17 years now. So this will be 18 years next year. I always say to myself, I feel like I understand, understand, and overstand everything in barbering now.
I like the analogy there. So what took you on your journey of barbering and cutting hair? Is this something that fell into place naturally, or was it from your experiences?
I would say that family had a massive influence. I do come from a long line of barbers, even from mum and dad's side.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's quite weird actually. In my dad's hometown of Ribera in Sicily, one of his great uncle, I believe, who actually had the same name as me, he was Lorenzo Galletta as well, and he was a barber, right, which is really odd. I only found this out a few years ago until my great uncle told me about it. And my granddad on my mum's side, my mum's dad, he was a barber as well, and my mum's brother also.
Wow.
So the influence started from young. Like, I was the oldest of there's 13 cousins, including my siblings in the family. So me being the oldest, we're in that millennial stage now where, I think the previous generation would have been Gen Z, I think.
Okay.
I'm not too sure our parents' generation, what they were called. But basically, there was not a constant pressure, but there was a pressure to decide from a young age what you want to do with your life. And, having a lot of younger cousins, me being closest to my uncles and aunties in terms of age,
yes,
I would forever be asked, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Yes.
Like, and it was always, and I think subconsciously you feel compelled to make a decision.
Yes, definitely.
So I always found a part of me, felt like, I should find what I want to do. And I always had my dad there. And my dad always used to say to me, you're going to have to work a long time, son. He's like, so do something that you enjoy.
Yes.
And so that was more what I looked for. I looked more for, just passion. There's a saying that I use, it's a bit of a slang term, and it says passion over paper. It refers to having passion over money. Money isn't real. It's just it's a tool. We use it to exchange, buy stuff. Money is limitless, and if people always says if you need money to make you happy, then you'll never be happy, because the amount of numbers in money is infinite.
Yes.
And so I always looked for something that I was passionate about. And then I got my granddad called me up one day, said I need a hand in the shop.
Okay.
Do you want to come and sweep the floor? And so I was like, yeah, cool, why not? I had nothing to do. My mum was like, yeah, cool, it's not really optional. So yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I used to come in, and I used to take the jackets and hand customers jacket stuff, and I used to brush their back down. In terms of service, as like a 9-year-old, top tier.
Excellent.
And I used to get 50p here, a pound there. I got a taste for it. I think I bought my first PlayStation 1 in 50p's. So
Wow.
yeah, I think I had 100 and something pound in 50p's, like the mountain of 50p's.
I like
And I
it.
think, and I think from there, I enjoyed the environment. Like, I enjoyed the satisfaction of how you can come in and people can talk to you.
Mm,
They can tell you about how they feel. It's like almost like therapy in a way.
absolutely, because they
Like,
always say, yeah, your barber knows more about you than your therapist.
oh,
It is
100%. Yeah, and it's when people are in that chair, there's during conversation, you can connect and literally talk about absolutely anything. Stuff about that I love because me myself, I find people absolutely fascinating.
the same here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And everybody's got a different story and everybody's got a different
Absolutely.
viewpoint. And
Mm,
I think I just love to go into work and just be neutral.
yes.
I don't voice opinions too much. Only when it comes to football, stuff like that.
Well,
But
let's not go there right now.
yeah,
So, how did you decide to start your own business? How did you get to this point?
a lot of it fell into place, to be honest.
Hmm.
I was working in a shop for a long time, and I was happy. I was
Uh-huh.
very happy, but I just felt like the industry needed changing. I've always said, you have to be the change you want to see in the world.
Absolutely.
So, if I have to do something about it, I have to be the change.
Hmm.
And since then, it was a long journey. Really, I started out, from just having a chair, and then that didn't really work out. And then I had my own room, and it worked well, but it was kind of like a natural progression. But I
Hmm.
think a lot of it was the opportunities were presented to me
Mm,
rather than me looking for it as such. I think
okay.
I'm the observer in all of this, and I've just it almost like it manifested. It sounds really strange, but almost like it manifested itself. Like when I was in that little my first shop
Yeah.
that got offered to me because I was in a room in the same courtyard of where I was working. So the
Excellent.
landlord said to me, like, I've had a shop come up, I see you're busy. Do you want it? That was the first opportunity that presented itself.
Mm.
So I took it
That's
straight
the
off.
key thing there. It's knowing when to take the opportunities as
Oh,
well.
exactly. See, this is where, back
Mm.
to start when I said about calculated risks.
Yes.
It's all about, when it presents itself, you have to calculate that risk, have
Yes.
everything in place, and you need to know in yourself, are you ready? Yeah.
Yes.
And I think I was 22 or nearly 23. I think I was just shy of 23.
Hmm.
And I think then I didn't really know what I was undertaking as such because
Yeah.
I was a complete novice, and it beat me down and it broke me in a way,
Mm.
and it built me back up into the person that I am now.
How long have you had your business now?
This shop I'm in now,
Mm.
I've been in since July 2018, so it's 4 years.
Mm.
Yeah, and this is my biggest project yet. It's always a work in progress. I'm always fluid,
Mhm.
and I like to go with the flow. I'm probably about 6 months away from opening up my barbering training center.
Oh, excellent. Well done.
So yeah, that's my next venture.
Hmm.
And yeah, really, I want to try and reform the education system in barbering, really, because there's a lot of people that just aren't really getting the tools that they need to be a great barber in this industry.
Wow.
Um, The
Okay.
conversion rate from beginner barbers to full-time lifelong barbers is very, very slim. Just to speak in various colleges, for example, one of them I spoke to was this year they had only 9 students.
So that surprises me because there's so many barber shops everywhere.
Yeah, they're at every turn, literally every turn. And it's surprising for me, but I think a lot of it is because it's not regulated. That's
Okay.
that's why. Because if you wanted to pick up a pair of scissors and go in here and cut hair in the shop, there would be no one stopping you. Like, you
Oh,
could just do it.
seriously.
Right. Yeah, there'll be no issues. Yeah. And this is where I think a lot of it lacks because a
Mm.
lot of people are just like, well, okay, I can go in shop and learn. I can earn money straight away without having to waste my time for a year. Which, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it does make sense. But I think the things that you are missing is salon etiquette. A lot of people, they miss out on how a barbershop runs, how salons run, health and safety,
Mm-hmm.
all of the other things included in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, client consultation, different methods. I find I've seen a lot of people that learn in barbershops. Their scissor work, it lacks as a result of that.
Okay.
A lot of people know how to fade and use clippers and stuff like that because that's the easy stuff.
I'll
Yeah,
take
like,
your word for it.
yeah, yeah, that's the easy stuff. But when it comes to like scissor work and sectioning and and learning actual face shapes and head shapes and blow dries and yeah, it's a completely different ball game. And sometimes you just can't learn that in a shop. You need to go on courses and stuff like that. So that's a gap that I want to try and fill there. Just to kind of bring a bit more of a sense of like faith back into the industry.
Absolutely. And that actually leads into my next question. What are your pivotal moments in being a leader? And how has your experience shaped you into being the person you are today?
Oh, that's a good one, that is. I would say the pivotal moments really is managing people.
Mm.
I think that has been, my biggest attribute, I think, to becoming a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a big difference between a boss and a leader.
Yes, for
Because
sure.
a boss instructs, leaders lead.
Mm.
And I think, this is where for me it keeps me on my toes because, I have to be the change I want to see in the world. And, I come into the shop and I give it 110% every day. That was a big pivotal moment for me because, sometimes like, you can't get on with everyone really. I think sometimes,
Mm.
it's difficult. If you were everyone's cup of tea, you'd be a mug.
Yeah.
So, so and I think a lot of it is just building solid relationships with people and being versatile and learning to understand people and what they want. Like, and
Absolutely. And that is key. You've got to. And
yeah,
like you said,
because
you've got to be able to adapt to.
and it's keeping balance in the workplace and the pivotal moments is just having a team and having staff at the top point when I had two shops, had a
Mm-hmm.
team of 8. So we had 8 members of staff. Calculate chaos. It was good fun,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, at the same time, managing people, there was always like, something, our conversation here, conversation there, and a lot of it, I find if you lead by example, it helps.
Absolutely.
It helps, like, when I'm at work, I be how I expect, if I was my own member of staff. That's how I would want to see myself. Like,
Definitely.
this is why I find when it comes to staff and your team, if you're doing your best, you kind of that's a guideline for how you want them to be. And like, it's definitely it's made me a lot calmer, a lot more understanding. Because I think the barbering industry, just a barber shop in general, it's a haven for good vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Definitely.
you could be having the worst day, even like as a customer, you could be having the worst day, but you could go and you could get your hair cut, and like after a haircut, and I've had people say to me like, what, I felt like I felt horrible when I come in here, I felt really miserable, but like what, I feel better now. It's the same sometimes when you go into work, you almost leave everything else at the doorstep, and then you crack on.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, especially with mental health on the rise, and especially for men this day and age, I think, barbers are play such a big role in that.
Oh, exactly. Kevin Hart said it himself. He said, "Men don't go to therapy; they go to barbershops."
Absolutely. And it's so
Yeah.
true. And it's definitely needed. So, yeah, if you can't have that interaction, that conversation, then you're missing a trick here.
Oh,
Definitely.
absolutely, absolutely. I think a lot of it is the weight of people's shoulders. Sometimes,
Mhm.
a lot of it sometimes you get to see it from a different perspective. When customers talk to me about various issues and ideas and stuff like that, I always take it from a neutral standpoint and just try and be creative and see what kind of positive input I can always put in. Like it's not always the case in some points.
Yeah. Mhm.
But there's always twists and turns in life.
Yeah. So, what is success to you, and what is your driving force?
Oh, this is a good one. Right. So for me, success is a feeling.
Mm.
For everyone, success is the same. Whether you've got a new job, you've just bought a house, even if you've gained a new customer, and this person said to you, do you know what? I'm going to come back, and you're going to be my guy, and you can gain, that for me is success. Success is a feeling. I think, and it's just that feeling of that you've achieved something. And I think
Definitely.
you can't put that on anything material. Like you can to an extent. Yeah, I've got a house now. I'm successful, but no, it's more than that. It's the feeling. And for me, the driving force for that, I go to work and I'm in a position where I wake up and I'm happy to go to work. And that's what I feel makes me successful, because good vibes are contagious.
Absolutely.
And people can feel it. They come into the shop and they see me and they see the team, and there's good vibes. We're happy. Hey,
Mhm.
we've got the music going, and everyone's happy. And for me, that's the pinnacle of success. And seeing my team, and I'm seeing they're happy, and they're working hard and they're achieving their goals, and we're all successful in this. That's the driving force, because I want to maintain that, and I want to build on that, and I want to give people opportunities to build on that as well. And it's such a big thing for me. It's that feeling I really want to hold on to, because I think if you get that feeling that you're not successful, I think you've really got to dig deep and just figure out why have I not got this feeling, because there's success in everything. And some people don't have plans, some people do. Small term objectives, long term goals, and every small term objective is a success. That leads to the big successes, because Rome wasn't built in a day. And I think we live in a generation where we've got instant gratification.
Mm.
You can post a good picture, get 1,000 likes, and that's it. You made it.
Yeah, and it is like you say, a ripple effect as well.
100%. And it echoes.
Mm.
And I think seeing someone successful, and what I see it as success is just happiness.
Yes.
I see someone and they're really content, and they love what they do, and whether they're content with their family, they do, and they do what they love. That is success, top tier success.
Absolutely, saying is love what you do what you love.
Absolutely. They say that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Definitely. So, what helps you be the best version of yourself in identifying your fears and problems? How do you overcome them?
A lot of it is solitude, I would say. I find if I've got an issue, I spend time alone.
Hmm.
I love to talk. I love to talk, but at the same time, this is me as an individual. I feel that silence gives me the best kind of ideas. And if I've got an issue, I go away, I break it down, I work it out. I come to terms with it. You accept it, you embrace it, because you can't change it. If something's happened, or whatever has happened, you can't change it because change is the only thing certain in life. You just have to take it in, identify how you're going to react to your fears, your problems, and everything else. Because, ultimately, there's loads of stuff to be worried about in anything you do in life. Like, there's always a worst case scenario, I think, which you always need to identify and take that into account. It's just taking it in and dealing with it. I find that I deal with it the best internally. I think failing that, I'll talk to my friends, see what they think about it, get some input. And I think more time, you got to go with your gut because, your own knowledge can guide you. You only know you better than you know you.
Absolutely, and it's coming from the inside out. Only if so many of us actually live from the inside out, nothing from outside of us is going to help us.
Oh, absolutely.
I totally understand what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, because it does it. It's a big thing. A lot of people, they look for external things, as a vice. Like, this is why, phones and social media has become, almost, I wouldn't say toxic because there is a lot of positive aspects to social media, but a lot of people, use social media as a vice for gratification and validity. If you base your worth on likes, then you're never going to be happy. But I think, if you're happy in yourself, then nothing can ever change that.
Yeah, no. If you could go back 10 years and speak to your younger self, what would you say?
God, give myself a slap. No, I wouldn't. You know what? I'd probably give myself a hug. That's for sure. And do you know what? It's crazy because I remember when I first started out, I used to lay in bed and I used to dream about the stuff I do now. I would tell myself just keep going, because if you really believe, that it will happen because the universe conspires to help a positive attitude. It's something I believe in, but if you really want it, it will happen because you need to. If you're ready for it, it will come. And I think a lot of it is coming over that fears and that self-doubt because a lot of through my journey, it's been a lot of self-doubt. Even the early years, am I good enough? Even when I was training, I've had my boss call me in the staff room and say, "Listen, that haircut you done was absolutely atrocious. Like, what the hell are you doing?" And literally, you come out and you just feel like, wow.
Yeah.
But it crushes you. And I remember when, I first went to the bank and tried to apply for a mortgage. The guy looked at my books and he was just like, "No, it's never going to happen." I was like, "Well, what do I need to do?" And he was like, "Work harder." He's like, "You need to start cutting more hair, mate." And I come out of that bank absolutely broken because, for me, I always wanted to get a house and stuff like that, and I went home and I spoke to my mum and my dad and I was like, "Look, this is what the guy in the bank told me." I think he'd probably be fired if he said that now. But this was a good, nearly 10 years ago. And, I remember my mum saying to me, she was like, "Well, what are you going to do?" I was like, "I'm going to do what he bloody told me to do." I was like, "I'm going to go and work harder." And I did. I just think it's that self-doubt sometimes that it creeps in. There's a saying that, that life's like a boat. And your bad thoughts is your water. If you let the water into the boat, then the boat's going to sink. So, don't let the bad thoughts into your mind. I would tell my younger self, I would be like, "Listen, just if you have something and do it." Because, you are your best guide.
Yes, definitely. Who are your biggest influential people in your life? Your biggest influence?
My biggest, I'd probably say one of my closest ones, my granddad, really. We were very close. I lost him just a week before my 21st birthday. Yeah, we were very close. Yeah, we were very close. Yeah, we worked together for quite some time. I learned a lot off him. Not so much in terms of the cutting style, but just him as a person and how he was. I took a lot away from that. He would always, we would talk about finances and stuff like that. My granddad was a bit of a hustler. He was old school. he was always up to something. He was scheming, you know, and I've adopted so much from that, you know. I'm very similar in that kind of way that, like, you know, I'm always up to something. Like, you know, I've always got something in the pipeline. There's always something there. Like, you know, I'm never stagnant, because, like, you know, if you don't swim, then you'll drown.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm relentless with it. I'm at it. So he's been one of my, like, you know, one of my top tier, you know, influential people in my life, purely because, like, you know, I lost him before I even had a shot.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and like, you know, I think, yeah, if he was here, I reckon he'd definitely be proud.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure he's looking down at you and he is proud.
Absolutely. But, like, you know, it was just more taking, you know, like, you know, that family barbering, like, you know, he was a local legend, really, and just running with that, because, like, you know, I still cut people's hair now that my granddad used to cut their hair. And, like, you know, I almost feel like I'm carrying on a legacy, and then part of me feels like compelled to, like, you know, not let that go. Like, you know, even though the old school traditional ways of barbering, they're completely gone now. Like, you know, there's a new aspect, and it's given birth to something else, but the fundamentals are still there. And, like, you know, for me, it's been a massive influence. You know, it was what got me into barbering initially. And I've learned the old school and the new school, and I think it gives me a cutting edge on a lot of these modern barbers.
Definitely.
Like, you know, because, you know, if they're only teaching modern techniques, then the old stuff it's a dying art.
Yes.
And a lot of it, even my parents, like, you know, I come from a business orientated family. My parents, they run their own company. Quite a few of my uncles, they do too. And there's been a lot of outside influence, like, you know, to try and be that guy. A lot of it is an expectation as well, because I've come from that kind of background. I've always felt compelled to try and, you know, do something a bit bigger than the norm. And it's had a big influence. And just, like, you know, I remember my mum showing me how to do my bookkeeping and all of that. And then, you know, it's just it was just a solid foundation for me. And then, you know, from that basic fundamentals, I learned, you know, how to bring, like, a modern aspect to it, and, you know, and fine tune it and automate everything to the beast you see before you.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Lorenzo, this is a great question, or at least I'd like to know the definition of this. What is the difference between a good haircut and a brilliant haircut?
2 weeks when it grows out. I would say a lot of it, anyone can cut hair. Like, you know, I always say to some of these young kids that come in, and, you know, as soon as I interview anyone, I say to them, right, tell me what you're bad at, right? And if they tell me nothing, they'll be out. Like that. Because I'm not trying to hear any of that cocky this and that, and, like, you know everything, because the one who knows everything knows nothing. That's what and for me, there's a big difference between cutting hair great and being a good barber. There's a big difference, because, you know, you can cut hair great, like, you know, and there's loads of people that cut hair great but they're not busy. And there's being a great barber. Being a great barber is doing a good haircut. Yeah. It's you know, that service, that making people feel great.
Absolutely.
And also it's, you know, it's tailor making the cuts to the person. No two heads are the same. You know, there's growth patterns, there's ripples in their head and this and that. And, you know, you have to dress the haircut to them, because you can do the method, and you can do the textbook and stuff like that, but it might not suit them. And I think that's the big difference between a good haircut and an excellent haircut, because if you're tailor making that haircut, because, you know, maybe they've got, like, you know, maybe the back of their head's a bit flat, so maybe you need to leave the weight a little bit, so, you know, it gives them a different head structure, and, you know, that one little difference can completely change their look and completely change their confidence level, and from that they can probably completely change their life.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, if you cut someone's hair for a job interview, they've got a good haircut and they get the job, you know, that's life changing.
Yeah. For sure.
You
For sure.
know, I've always said, like, you know, a good haircut is the difference between the number and the finger. So, you know, if you've got a bad haircut and try and make a move on someone, they don't like the look of your haircut, you get the finger, you're getting told where to go.
Absolutely. So I think you've answered this question, because my next question was, but we can elaborate. Have you ever messed up a haircut?
Oh, yeah, loads of times. Loads of times. I think a lot of it is like, you know, it happens. It happens all the time. Not so much now, but you know, I think now I'm pretty solid. But you know, there sometimes there is a lapse. We're human, we make mistakes.
Yes.
But I think a lot of it becomes is your experience in your ability on how to get out of the mistakes is where you really learn. Because I remember my first issue. I remember because I was very confident as a youngster, a bit too confident perhaps. You know, because I was cutting from 15, which was, you know, that was younger than the average.
Yes.
So I started college at 16, 17. I'd walked into the class and I was the only one there was two others that knew how to cut. From my first day, you know, my teacher pulled me in and he was like, listen, Lorenzo, there's not many people that can walk the walk and talk the talk. Like, you know, and my head just went, like, you know. And from then I got unbelievably cocky. And I think, you know, life definitely brought me down. It definitely, and like, you know, I was going for it one day and this guard popped off. And like, you know, I took the fattest chunk out of this guy's head and I was like, oh my God. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. I completely froze. Like, you know, my uncle was upstairs and had to call him because he was my mentor at the time. And I was like, listen, we've had and this guy in the chair was absolutely effing and blinding. And I was a kid, I was 16. You're like, you know, this is a full grown man. I thought he was going to punch me up. And and you're like, you know, luckily my uncle, you know, came to my rescue, saved the day.
Excellent.
And, that was a big turning point that, you know, sometimes no matter how bad you mess it up, you can always rectify it. Like, you know, and even back when I worked with my granddad, I think he would purposely not mess people's hair up, but do little dinks here and there. And he would be like, right, look at this. Right, now I'm going to show you what to do. So if this happens to you, then you know what to do. So, you know, then those issues, they do arise. Like, you know, you can never say never that they're never going to happen to you, like, because it does. You know, there could be a lapse in concentration, your guard will slip up, you know, and you need to learn on how to overcome, you know, when you do have those hiccups. But more time, you know, I don't think I've never had to draw the line and be like, right, you know what, messed your hair up. Not for a very long time. But yeah, it does happen. I think that's what life's all about, is taking the rough with the smooth.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Lorenzo, what resources do you recommend, daily tips, tools, steps, to anyone that wants to start their own business?
I would say a lot of it is tips and tools, really, is learn. Have a mentor, because you can't just pluck ideas out of thin air. You need experience. And if you can't get your own experience, then you need to learn experience off other people. That's how the master and the apprentice comes about. Knowledge is passed down. It's not inherited. Like, you know, it's just the same way it goes. And there's a lot of tools online. I read a lot of books. I always read loads of books. And like, you know, even stuff like, you know, the 4-hour work week, stuff how like you can just try and chisel away at your you know, at your goals, really. Even stuff like I find self-help books help, and like, you know, I read the Master Key System by I think it's by Charles Hannell, and like, you know, that's a 6-month program on, like, you know, how to master your own mind. And I think, you know, even if you do open your own business and whatnot, you know, you need to have your mind and everything in place, because a lot of it is delegating your time. It's very time consuming, and it's applying those hats and outsourcing to a certain extent, because, you know, the more you can do, the more money you'll save, but the more money you save, the less time you have. Yes. So it's like a financial trade-off. You know, you need like a balance, and there's tons of resources out there. Like, you know, I always do courses of I've just started a 2-year online fundamentals course with Barber Josh OP, and I'm a bit of a fanboy for him. He's a great barber. He's pretty much, I wouldn't say self-taught, but he's created his own kind of method. Literally, I always love learning of people, and it's finding the resources of where even a master can learn.
Absolutely.
They say, was it? Is it? I think it's 50,000 hours. It's about 5 years to master your craft. So I think I'd be a master almost 3 or 4 times over now, nearly, give or take a couple of years. And I can still learn. I'm still learning. And there's ton online, YouTube. A lot of it is just staying calm and focused, and let it guide you. If you really want it, the opportunities arise.
Yes, and it's been open to the learning as well.
Absolutely, because a lot of people they're quick to disregard methods. I've tried to learn every single cutting method possible, but the one thing I have come to realize is that you can't apply every method on every head. These different methods, they're out there because they work better on different haircuts. You apply them, and this is where you get your versatility, because then you're like, okay, this guy's got coarse hair, this guy's got fine hair, so okay, I'm going to apply this method, I'm going to apply that method. But if you're just a one-trick pony, then you're never going to get the same results every time. And this is where there's such a big industry. And now the good thing about social media is that you can learn. And once you get to a point where you can look at stuff and you can learn, and you can go on pages and you can learn about business. And I think a lot of people in business as well, they don't really get their numbers together first. I see it a lot. I talk to a lot of barbers approach me and ask me for information and advice. And I always say, get your numbers right.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no point, because a lot of the time in business, the boss eats last. You've got to look after your team. That's how it works. And I think a lot of them they make it too appealing for the people working that it doesn't become fair, I think, for everyone.
Definitely, yeah.
If you're overworking and everyone else is underworking, then there's no balance. And this is why I think the turnover rate now, I think, is it's crazy, because you've got people, they'll do it for a while and then they're just thinking, oh, okay, I'm not getting the results that I want, I'm not building the clientele as quick enough. But are they really applying themselves the way that they need to be? Because there's a big difference between wanting to do it and actually doing it, because a lot of it is sacrifice. If people aren't making those sacrifices to get to that position, or they're going out and they're like, yeah, do you know what, I want to spend this and spend that, and I want to buy this and I want to buy that, and then they're chipping away at their investment money, then ultimately it's going to fail. It's discipline. Discipline is a big factor into business, and this is why a lot of people, because they're not disciplined, or they start it and then they realize the amount of discipline you need. This is where it becomes a downward spiral, because a lot of barbershop owners suffer from mental health issues. I've seen it, and and this is where it's kind of like, it should be okay to talk if you've got mental health issues.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think a lot of people have come to think in the barbering industry, it's not. Some people think it's a dog eat dog world out there, but it's really not. I've always treated the barbers like family. Even I know loads of barbers, and I always show love. I treat my team like brothers and sisters.
Absolutely. So Lorenzo, where can the listeners find you online? What's your website?
You can find me online on Google. I got a website, Fade Fx Barbers, on Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on there, and an ambassador for Hairbond, and a part of their education team. So yeah, if anyone needs any advice, even just styling tips, what kind of products do they need to use, even if they're looking to change hairstyle. I'm not looking to poach customers. I'm very busy, but I think even if they want advice, then yeah, I'm always open. Like, you can slide into the DMs and I might take a day to reply or so. But no, I'm always available. Like literally, I love what I do. And if anyone gives me the opportunity to learn or learn a new style or bring a new picture, for me to try, like, I think there's a 95% chance I'll hit the nail on the head first time. It's bringing in something different. Like, I do a lot of pattern work as well. People bring in like mandala style patterns. Like, I've just got to look at this picture and be able to replicate it. And that's where, this is where you've got to be able to break it down, think about it. What method are you going to apply there? And then for me, like, this is one of the reasons why I actually love this game, because you never know what you're going to get. It's brilliant because, like, it's not dealing about with what happens, it's dealing with your reactions and how you're going to, go about this haircut right now and thinking about it. There's always thought in it.
Sure.
It's one of the reasons why I love it so much.
Thank you for sharing your courageous journey with us today. And by doing so, I know you have helped so many others. Lorenzo Galletta.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Anita. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My final question to you is, because we are all about create the courage to be fearless, what is your definition of courage?
Definition of courage? Oh, the definition of courage, I would say, is just be relentless. Be relentless. Just keep going. Just like, no, it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how many times you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's a Sylvester Stallone quote there from Rocky. And it's just be relentless. Just keep going. If you really believe in it, go for it. Because it will happen. You need to give 110%. You need late nights, early mornings. You need to get up. Sometimes, I work till midnight. Sometimes you have to do what you need to do, because consistency, find the balance, deal with whatever comes your way. Things do happen, but they happen to everyone. We're all in the same boat. Everyone's got to work. You may as well do something you enjoy, maybe be unhappy in the short term if you need to. But ultimately, success is that feeling. And if you know what you want and that's full-term objective, you will obtain that successful feeling. And you don't need millions, and you just need to be happy. Happiness is so much more important than material objects. Happiness is success. And it's, for me, one of the fundamental things in life, because if you're happy, success and money and love and everything else, it's all one. It all comes. And for me, it's just being relentless. Courage is just never giving up. Don't let those negative thoughts get to you, and just keep pushing. That's a real definition of courage, because it's easy to give up. Winners never quit. They never quit. And once you quit, you lose. So just because you've had a knockback doesn't make you a loser, as long as you don't quit. And it's just never quitting. And for me, I'm here. I'm in it for the long run. I've always said it. There's a part of me that wants to change. Even whether it's a small change, a big change, I want to make a change. If I can tweak or help the industry in some kind of way, and I've made an impact, for me that is so fulfilling. This is what I say to my team. This is what I say to others when I teach. I'm teaching to hold back anything. I'm teaching so you can learn. I'll teach my fundamentals, and then you can take that away, and then you can learn your own way. Because you've learned what I've taught you. You know the basics now, you know the fundamentals, and then once you're confident with that, then you can build on that. From that foundation, you keep building. From every foundation you build on, each step is a step higher. So it's definitely a great pleasure to be in this industry. And even 18 years nearly later, I love it as much as the day I first started. It's absolutely brilliant.